love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
And welcome to an, as always, special edition of the UFC Gambling Addicts Breakdown with the Dana White Contender Series Solo Edition Round 2. For us, I'm your host, Brooks, Aaron, whatever you want to call me, refer to me as. Someone called me Adam in a post recently. I don't really care, but if you're here listening, I appreciate you. Apologize for the late posting here, but doing my best to get the research and take care of other things, blah blah blah. But again, we're here to break down Dana White's Contender Series Season 3 Episode 9, and let's go ahead and just jump right in. We will be jumping in the bantamweight division, and we're starting with a bantamweight fight between Ricky the Karate Kid Steele and Phil Hitman Caracappa. I will do my best with pronunciation as we go here, and we'll see how we go. But anyways, I will start out with the breakdown of Ricky the Karate Kid Steele, the 31-year-old bantamweight, 5'11", 5-0 overall. Last time we saw Ricky was his appearance on The Ultimate Fighter Season 27, where he defeated Suman Markantarian by decision. Suman being a guy who I really respect as a grappler, maybe / a little bit overrated, but either way, I think that's not a terrible win, but it was also a year and a half ago. He had a foot injury coming out of that fight, and then the original plate put into his foot ended up not being the right size, so they had to go back in and reconnect it. Basically, it was a pretty long, drawn-out injury, but it seems to have focused Ricky. I was able to watch some interviews where he was stating how he stayed in shape and still stayed in the gym during these times, just obviously not able to be on his feet as much, but still. Ricky has gone to a decision in all his bouts, so gave a little bit of tape to look at. Ricky seems like he has some decent kicks, kind of well-rounded, but the killer instinct has not been displayed yet. I think he has to continue to pay attention to his conditioning, which is what he's claimed to have done over this past year and a half, because I see him looking to push the pace to get to a decision in this one. I'm not sure if we're seeing a finish in this one either side, but going to his opponent, Phil the Hitman Caracappa, he's 27 years old and 8-0 overall. He does have a couple finishes with TKOs, but 6 of his 8 fights went the distance. And every single one of his fights is made it to at least the third round. So these are 2 bantamweights, which maybe aren't the biggest finishers, but both should have good gas tanks in here. So Caracappa's best win, I'd say, would be over former UFC flyweight Luis Gaudinot. Gaudinot. I don't know how to pronounce him, but he's the green-haired guy who used to fight at flyweight. So I apologize for the butchering there, but Luis, green-haired guy, you know him if you know him. Otherwise, sorry. After that win, he had a really good win to become Ring of Combat bantamweight champion. He ended up nailing his opponent with a real slick kick in the third round and starching him. Most likely his opponent would be here had he won, as he was a 6-1 opponent, good guy with good movement. Phil's got a nice jab. He appears to have a pretty good gas tank, all things considered, and good size for the division as well. And Phil definitely has a lot of confidence. He had a lot of confidence prior to his last fight, saying he was going to get a finish, which takes a lot of guts, I think, for any fight, particularly when you have one finish in 7 fights. And he's faced better competition. So a lot of times the competition is a big indicator for me, depending on the fight, of course. But this fight, I think it definitely is an indicator of who I think is victorious, and that will be Phil Caracappa, and I will have to go with a decision. I think picking this fight to not go the distance would be pretty tough to do from my perspective. And so that is Phil the Hitman Caracappa. I'm taking my decision in the first fight of the night. And that moves us on to female strawweight division. And this matchup is between Nicole Di Segni. She is an Italian. I hope I didn't butcher that, but Apologies to any of our Italian listeners out there. And she is facing off against Mallory Martin in a fight, again, at strawweight. And I will start out by breaking down Nicole. She's 31 years old, 5'3", 7-2 overall with a TKO. I've not heard of any of the people on her record, as she's fought mostly European women's MMA, and I'm just not quite touched up on that as I maybe should be. But from what I've seen, seems like she has decent kickboxing, likes to throw the leg kicks, and pretty effective with them. Seems to like it overall on the feet. She at times lunges with her strikes and could leave herself open. She did get knocked out, I believe, in about 30 seconds in one of her fights. And she got a quick rear naked choke in her last fight. So she's definitely on a good run, winning 6 of 7. So definitely a well-deserved shot here, in my opinion. And she looks like she came in pretty good shape. I was also able to see the face-offs right before coming on here. So got a little bit of got to see the eye test for a lot of these fighters. So may bring that up a few times here. And that brings us to Mallory Martin. She's the 25-year-old, 5'4" out of Tiger Muay Thai, a camp I really respect and appreciate. She's 4-2 overall, 2 TKOs and a submission. And Mallory currently has all 3 of those finishes coming in her last 3 fights. And they've all come since losing to Macy Barber in LFA, where she made it to a decision. Macy was pretty dominant in that, but still, according to Mallory, she had fought all of her fights with a torn ACL prior to this. So she's finally been able to recover and been cleared to fight for this fight. She's known about this fight since about May. And she has been fully cleared medically, and I'm looking forward to it. She's got some good wrestling and good striking, particularly on top with her ground and pound. And she's been out since September of last year, but she hasn't faced the tougher competition. Again, facing tough competition early on and not always having all the success. She's 4-2. She's had some losses, but still has had some success over that good competition. I think really helps with the development, and training over in Thailand, working on her Muay Thai a lot. I think she's looking to come in here and make a statement, and I think she's successful. So I'll say Mallory Martin gets a TKO of Nicole, and I'll say it comes in round 1. So really looking forward to seeing Mallory. I have high expectations for her. And this brings us to our 3rd fight of the night, and in my opinion, I think could be the best fight of the night. And this is, again, at bantamweight, and it's between Desmond the Tyrant Torres and Steve Garcia Jr. I will start out with Desmond the Tyrant Torres, 22 years old, 5'7", 135, although he has fought some of his fights at flyweight, and it was viewed more so as a flyweight prospect, but getting into UFC, maybe he likes the prospects at 135. Seeing the weigh-ins, Steve Garcia looked like a featherweight, and Desmond looked like a flyweight. That being said, I really did like I have liked what I've seen of Desmond at times here, and I did like the appearance of him at the weigh-ins, and he looked very calm, very composed. He looked to be in good shape. They both did, in all honesty, but Garcia did look really big. About Torres, he's 7-1 overall. He has 4 submissions in those 7 wins, including 3 straight. His last 2 wins came in LFA and Bellator. And were 2 of his better wins. I was definitely impressed with Desmond's technique and toughness in his last fight, in which he was probably losing that fight 2 rounds down, and was able to get top control in the 3rd. And when his opponent gave up the easy arm triangle, he snatched it up and finished it. I'll give him credit to that, but I would not expect his fights as he gets closer to the UFC to be as easy to finish. But you take the finish when you see it, and he did that. He's fought, as I said, at times at flyweight, so he is definitely the smaller guy in there. May have trouble getting the fight to where he wants. I just think he's got to use movement, and he's going to have to stand and get his respect on the feet at least, because I think his wrestling is one spot where he may have a little bit of an issue. So that moves us on to Steve Garcia Jr., the 27-year-old, 6 foot, out of Jackson Winklejohn. So good camp, tall guy. He made the weight, appeared to look good in there. So the questions about the weight cut maybe have been a little sufficed here. Steve Garcia is 9-3 overall with 5 TKOs. He's a long, tall, rangy guy with good striking and movement. And training out Jackson Winklejohn, he continues to shape out his game and get better. He's been in Bellator. He's been in there with good guys like Joe Warren, although losing that fight. But he's had some good experience over there. He really has earned his spot as a prospect in this sport. He wasn't really too well known, and he's earned that as he's gone along here. He's continued to face very good competition through Jackson Winklejohn's MMA series as well. So props to them for not only being a great camp, but having a pretty good fight league that they have set up now for prospects. So I think that he'll be the more diverse striker. And I would think Desmond struggles to get him down. I think if this fight's on the feet, Steve Garcia ends up piecing him up and getting a round 2 TKO. And that's what I'm picking. I don't think that Torres is going to be able to get and keep Garcia down. So I think if Torres does get him down, he's going to have to take him down multiple times because I think he may have trouble keeping down a bigger, more experienced opponent. So of those reasons, of having the better competition, being a larger guy, just being a little more well-rounded, I'm going to take Steve Garcia Jr., and I'll take him by round 2 TKO. And that brings us to our second to last fight here. And again, I appreciate everybody for listening once again. Doing these without Layden, it just doesn't quite feel the same. But at the same point, I'm doing my best to research everybody and give you guys good analysis and good, well thought out picks. So again, appreciate you all listening, and back into the breakdown here. I will be breaking down a fight at light heavyweight between Marcos the Hawk Brigago. I'll go with Brigago. Yeah, let's go with that. Versus Jamal the Stormtrooper Pugues. I'll call him the Stormtrooper and the Hawk. The Hawk is Marcos Brigago. And he is 6'3", 23 years old. Weighed in for this fight at 202. So a little bit strange there, but not the first fight at 205 where he's weighed in a bit below the limit. He is 11-0 overall, 4 TKOs, 1 sub. Marcos is another tall, rangy guy. He may not have the most one-punch KO power, but I think he can effectively put you out with his volume and getting into the proper position to get a finish. He's not the best wrestler or most powerful wrestler, but he'll find a way to kind of sweep you down and from there get on top and stay on top. And he's been able to land some pretty good ground and pound in some of his fights I've watched. He's been able to get and maintain the full mount with those long legs and establishing a good base. I do worry a little bit about his strength here at 205, but I don't worry about his cut here to the light heavyweight limit, and so I don't think he'll be too drained on fight night. I think he's got to look to really make his opponent work, as his opponent, I think, cuts a significant amount of weight to get down to 205. And that brings us to Jamal the Stormtrooper Pugues, who is 23-0, or 23, 6'2", and 205, as I said, 6-2 overall with 4 TKOs and 1 submission. So the same finishing rate and a few less fights. Jamal is a pretty high pressure fighter. He looks to move forward, maintain pressure early and often. He does have good power, and he's a willing thrower with his strikes in there. He hasn't faced great competition, but I think I could see he's a larger, stronger guy. He's able to get inside on taller opponents before. And with his first loss was to Taylor Johnson, and that was the first time Taylor Johnson had been taken out of the first round besides a few weeks ago in the Contender series. And Pugues was finished in the second round by Johnson, but still, he made Johnson work more than most guys early on in Johnson's career before Muniz. And so the Stormtrooper, I think, comes out and attacks. And I think it's going to be an effective attack. He looks like such a stronger, bigger guy. And again, with the UFC Apex, it's a smaller octagon, often an advantage for these shorter, powerful guys. So I'm going to take Jamal the Stormtrooper, and I'll take him to get a round 1 TKO victory. So I'm expecting him to come out and just the size and strength just being too much for the Hawk. Which brings us to the main event of the evening, which is, or the featured fight as they call it, according to Tapology at least, which is between Leon Shabazian, brother of Edmund Shabazian, and Philip the Fresh Prince Rowe. And I will be breaking down Leon Shabazian first. He's 23, 6'4", 170. 7-1, was supposed to fight earlier on the Contender series and ended up getting ill and having to withdraw from his fight against Brock Weaver. We saw how good Brock Weaver was. He earned a contract, and I think Leon would have had quite a bit of trouble in that fight. That being said, I don't think this fight is too much easier of a matchup with Rowe. I also kind of question the effect of the weight cut on Leon. I think that the drastic weight cut was the result of his illness, although I can't confirm that. But Leon's got really slick ground game, can use his length to keep Rowe off him, but he's got to get this fight to the ground. Looking at the weigh-in and the face-off, Leon just looked kind of awkward and tense in there. Also, Leon has fought next to no really good competition. His last win was over a year ago, and it was over a guy who was 18-40. So, there's just some question marks here. He trains with his brother out in Glendale, so that's definitely helpful, I'm sure. And so the camp isn't a question here. But I have some questions with Leon, but moves us on to Philippe the Fresh Prince Rowe, 6'3", so only an inch shorter. And when I saw the weigh-ins, Rowe looked like the taller guy, frankly. And Rowe has fought and Rowe is fighting at 170 here as well, obviously. 6-2 overall. He's had 6 straight wins, and all of them being finishes. So he started out 0-2 in his career, and he since then has 2 TKOs and 4 submissions. Philip is definitely a very well-rounded and powerful guy. I really appreciate that he's not only competed in jiu-jitsu competitions against UFC talent such as Mike Biggie Rhodes, but he also even took a kickboxing fight. He did lose it, but still he's getting tons of competition experience in tons of combat sports, and they've created a very well-rounded, well-conditioned, tall welterweight here. So because both guys are pretty tall welterweights, I think the length somewhat cancels each other out here, and it comes down to movement and other abilities for who has the advantage in the stand-up. Rowe hasn't had the best of competition, again, so I've said that a lot tonight, and this is another fighter that definitely this applies to. But he seems to have learned from his 0-2 start. He's become a better and better fighter as he's gone along, become more confident as well. He's put himself into a lot of experiences, and they're starting to pay real dividends and creating a very well-rounded welterweight, in my opinion. I think Leon has the grappling advantage here, and that's where he needs to get the fight, while I think Rowe can use his grappling to make this a kickboxing bout, which is, I think, what he'll look to do and be very successful. And I will take Philip Rowe to wear down Leon, out-condition him a little bit here, and use his movement athleticism to get a round 2 TKO. So I believe I have, I have 1, 2, 3, I have 4 out of 5 finishes in this Contender series. So I guess I'm expecting exciting fights. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. I think the best fight of the night is Torres versus Garcia. I think that both those guys deserve a real look, but yeah, that's my best fight of the night. Again, thank you all for listening. I appreciate every one of you. Again, I'll be back with the breakdown of next week's final episode of the Contender series for season 3, I believe. Maybe it's not. So as always, don't quote me, but thank you all again for listening. Good luck with your bets. If I was putting together a little parlay, odds have not come out here yet for me, but if I was putting together a little parlay, I would say Caracappa, Mallory Martin, and I actually like Rowe. So that would be and good chance you may have 2 or 3 dogs there. So Anyways, enjoy the fights, everybody. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you next week. And Lay and Nia also will be back next week with the Zhang and Andrade flyweight or strawweight title fight from China. So hardcore fans card there. So starting my research on that. And thank you all and enjoy the fights. Brooks is out. Peace.